Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Floridian. I'm super excited for today. As everyone knows, today is April 29th, the day of the NFL draft. A bunch of guys are coming out of the draft for a lot of Floridian teams. And speaking of which, welcome to the first ever episode of the Floridian. It's a new podcast I'm trying to get out there, trying to get myself experience. And I thought to myself, what best way to get experience for sports broadcasting than talking about the sports here in the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State. So I'm going to go into the mock draft later on in this episode. But of course, I'm going to go across this state right now and what's really going on in the world of sports in our Sunshine State. First, we're going to go off in the world of the basketball. The Miami Heat are right there behind the Boston Celtics, about half a game behind them right now. They're in the 7th seed, so they'll be, kind of stuck in the play-in. The Hornets lost last night against the Celtics, 120-111, and the Heat actually won against the Spurs, 111-116, thanks to Jimmy Butler's 29-point performance. He's been playing a really great stand of basketball, and Bam Adebayo, a huge dominating poster after in the fourth quarter. Now, the thing is about the Miami Heat is that they're in a situation where they'll still make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But do you really want to be in the play-in tournament, especially against a Charlotte team, which is expected to have LaMelo Ball coming back off of injuries from his wrist? Gordon Hayward, it's still kind of underdetermined if he'll be back for a playoff or a play-in type of scenario if they do go against the Heat. But Miami's in a really good spot, especially for the 6th seed. A lot of games left until May. The Orlando Magic, they're just really out there going for ping pong balls for the lottery draft. Only have 19 wins in this season. They beat Cleveland the other night, and they're supposed to go against Memphis on the 30th of this April. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Florida Panthers and the Lightning. They have the last stretch for the playoffs in hockey right now. And I'm telling you right now, this is huge. The Lightning and the Panthers, the Panthers with 69 points, and the Lightning was 68 right now in the standings for that Central Division. They can go 1-on-1 in a playoff series, a Floridian hockey playoff series. It's weird enough to even say hockey and Florida in the same sentence, but the Florida teams are back, and they're better than ever. I mean, Lightnings has won off a Stanley Cup last year, and the Florida Panthers with Barkov clinched a playoff spot. Can you believe that? Clinched a playoff spot. And technically, you could say that the last year we didn't really make the playoffs. It was that little play-in thing, which unfortunately we couldn't, get past. But, 2 years straight into the playoff conversation, that hasn't happened for, God knows when. Maybe since the first time we ever went to the Stanley Cup and really went through the first round. And if the Panthers go through the first round, that'll be a huge thing for South Floridian hockey, let alone. Especially with Barkov finally realizing that he is the top 10 guys in the NHL. Yandel, Huberdeau, who's been with the team for so many years. But it's a really good sign for Floridian hockey. And hopefully we do get that series. It just depends on how the games play out until May 10th. And of course in baseball, the Marlins and the Rays, just a couple of games coming in. Marlins right now are 11-13. A game behind Atlanta. But the Rays, 3 games behind Boston, and Boston's been red hot, just like the Red Sox that they are. So that's going to be a really good, 2 teams to look after, and hopefully the Marlins do the same thing as the Panthers, going back-to-back into the playoffs for the first time in a long time, especially for as young as those teams are. Now, we got a lot of those out of the way, and I know what everyone's here for, especially if you're a Floridian. Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and Miami, they're all there in the first round, and they can all get the pieces that they need for their teams. Be able to fix up their offense, get incredible talent that we haven't seen in the past 40 years in receivers and tight ends, and the quarterback of the future, especially for Jacksonville. So I'm going to go right into it. These are going to be my mock picks that I'm expecting for the Floridian teams in this year's draft. And of course, we're going to go by number 1 right now with Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, the obvious scenario is that he's going to get picked up by Jacksonville for that first pick. The kid out of Clemson is just an incredible build, tall, really well in the pocket, throws off the ball accurately, more accurate than anybody in this draft class. You can argue for Mac Jones, but you don't really want to get in Kyle Shanahan's way with that. I mean, this kid is incredible. The only flaw that some of the scouts are saying about him is that he's bad under pressure. I mean, they're saying the same thing about Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron turned out great. Am I saying this kid's just like Aaron Rodgers? No, not really. I mean, the best, comparison I can probably give him to is probably Peyton Manning. I mean, the guy's, tall. I mean, unlike Peyton, he can obviously use his legs. We saw him use that in the Ohio State game in the playoffs this year for college football. So he's going to be a really dominant player out there for Jacksonville. Now, the one thing I really wanted to talk about, which I haven't seen a lot of people talk about over there in ESPN or anywhere you really get your sports from, is that what is going on with Gardner Minshew if this pick comes in? I mean, it's obvious it's going to come in. I mean, it's going to be, the quickest pick is in on when they're on the clock. But Minshew is still a good quarterback. I mean, if you saw the first two games against the Colts and Tennessee, Minshew, he had some issues there, before his injury. I mean, he overthrew the ball a little bit here and there, got tipped up for interceptions, especially against that Tennessee game. But he put up points for that offense. I mean, this kid, Minshew, is a great quarterback. To me, he's the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. He has the mojo that you want to have in a quarterback, the confidence to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, which he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't believe Minshew is a real backup. I mean, you can always have him as a backup in Jacksonville. I would hate to see Jacksonville just give up on him. But, it is what it is, especially if you want to have Trevor Lawrence there for the next couple of years starting. I don't really want to see a competition if I'm a Jacksonville fan. But then again, I would hate to get rid of Minshew. And I think Minshew has a great place in the NFL. Now, besides that obvious pick, we're going to go into a little bit more questionable pick. In which, of course, I mean the Miami Dolphins pick, number 6. Now, there's a lot of guys in this draft that you can probably say, are going to be there when the Dolphins get a number 6, but you just have no idea. I mean, of course, everyone wants to get the kid out of Florida, Pitts, but, I mean, in reality, he might get picked up by Atlanta, and that depends on what Atlanta's going to do, And you're going to say Jamar Chase might be there. However, Joe Burrow and that connection is undeniable. Even though, of course, he gets injured based on the O-line, and the O-line is the one thing they need to fix. There's a lot of great O-line in this draft. In the second round, they can get some first-round, prospects out of O-line. A lot of good guards, a couple of good centers they can possibly get. But in reality, they probably are going to get that kid out of Oregon for guard. And it's a possibility. Of course, they could get Chase, but it's unlikely. However, the possibility is there. And that's what's going to leave Miami to, man, who are we going to get? Who's going to be left? And if they really have a guy specifically they want to get, they might want to trade up. However, they trade back because I'm pretty sure they're positive of who they're going to get. They know who they're going to get. To me, honestly, I don't think Matt Ryan's going to get replaced this year by a quarterback, let alone I don't think you take the 4th pick on a quarterback and have him sit down for a couple of years. So I don't really think that they're going to get a quarterback. I believe that Atlanta's going to get Pitts. Obviously, as I said before, the Bengals have that chance to get Chase for a Joe Burrow connection reunion, LSU. But honestly, it's going to be all based on 2 wide receivers. It's going to be either Jamar Chase out of LSU or Smith coming out of Alabama, the former Heisman winner from this year and former champion of this year. Now, the idea is to get a guy that fits your needs, all right? When I see Jamar Chase, I see what Devontae Parker could possibly be. Now, I'm not saying Jamar Chase is Devontae Parker. I'm just saying he's better than Devontae Parker. He'll be the number 1 wide receiver deep if Devontae Parker is still on that team and Jamar Chase joins in. All right? We don't need that. The Dolphins, we don't need that, Mike. We don't need that. All right? We love to have it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Devontae Parker and Jamar Chase and Tua just flinging it 20 yards down the field on a route. I mean, everyone would love to see that. It's going to bring season ticket holders in. But what if we get Smith? What if we get the guy that played with our quarterback and has that connection for all those years? The Heisman winner. The man that won the national champion. All right? The guy who would literally give you about 200 plus every single game in yards. Pass after catch, incredible stats. Obviously Jamar Chase ran a 4.38 in his pro day and has a a bunch of incredible athletics. He's probably more athletic than Devontae Smith. All right, and obviously a bigger build. And the one question that everyone has is Smith's size too little for the NFL? I don't like hearing that at all. And I'm gonna put it based on Devontae Smith's own words. They're basically football players. All right, they're not bodybuilders. And this kid may not be a bodybuilder, but he will smoke you off the line. He runs his routes very well. And the catches he makes, he's a lock on the ball when that thing's in the air. I remember in the LSU game this year, basically at the end zone, he goes out for a ridiculous pass. And his size, either way, he makes it possible. Ridiculous, but it's true. He makes it possible. So the reality to say that Devontae Smith, if he's there, I expect Miami to pick him up. I expect that these scouts do their job. And honestly, for the GM and the coach Flores, I have all the faith in them. This is the first time I had real faith in the Miami Dolphins front office. And it's been a long time since anybody could even say that. So I believe Smith is going to be at pick number 6 there. Of course, Jamar Chase is there at number 6 as well. They could pick him up. Either way, I believe it is a win-win because you're getting both terrific athletes at the wide receiver position, but I really do believe that Smith is the better wide receiver compared to Jamar Chase. Now, I'm going to go straight into pick 18, which is also from the Dolphins. I'm getting Najee Harris out of Alabama, another terrific guy. I mean, we're going to make Alabama South in Miami right now. I mean, this guy is absolutely ridiculous. He can really give you something on the run, athletic. He's quick on his feet, going out of the pocket into the straight line. Can stiff arm anybody he wanted to. And, I mean, it's not even just the run game. It's also the pass game. He's really well at catching those balls coming out from either a fake block or slide off somebody rushing in, one of the defensive ends on the side. And, he's also really good. Personally, to me, I don't know if anybody else can probably say this about him, but I believe he'd be really good for protecting Tua in the pocket if it does come to that blocking scenario. And in the NFL, you can obviously get whoever you want in the second round or the third round when it comes to running back. A lot of people don't believe in picking a running back in the, first round, let alone the 18th pick. But Harris is a different build. He's just built different. He's a different man. I mean, we're talking about a guy that is the potential of Derrick Henry from Tennessee. That's the best running back in this league, let alone a guy who's carrying the Tennessee Titans right now. And I know what you're going to say, being a Dolphin fan, if you are one, oh, but it's Ryan Tannehill picking up that team. He's always been picking it up. When has he picked up anything? Maybe picked himself off the ground in our O-line when he was here. Maybe picking himself up to the ground then, picking up that signed contract with Tennessee. Ridiculous contract if you ask me, but that's not the point. The point is Miami's going to get an incredible offensive player and running back and at the wide receiver position in the first round. We don't have to do anything in that 18th pick. We can get Harris. I believe we're going to get Harris because if Harris doesn't get picked up by us at 18, the Steelers at 24, they're going to pick him up regardless, especially with Connor leaving out to Arizona. I mean, this kid is an obvious first rounder. And if we pass up on him like we did on the other running backs from last year, like Dobbins or Johnson, I mean, it's going to hurt. I mean, every Dolphin fan on Twitter is going to retweet that. It's going to hurt a lot. So I believe we do get Harris. If we don't feel like we have to get Harris, I believe that we're probably going to go out there and help with a pass rush defensively because I don't think Wilkins can do everything on himself. And we have other guys who stepped up this year on the, in the trenches for our defense. But, we also have those 2 kids coming out of UM. It'll be a lovely situation. We get 2 kids coming out of UM. I mean, we also have Phillips out there, which I think we'll probably be able to get. I mean, at that 18th pick, if we do want to get someone, because I think he's the best out of the 2. But, pass rush or running back position, I think Miami will be set in the first round. It's a win-win no matter either pick is picked, as long as they don't mess up with some O-line, BS they did last year. Now, I'm going to go on, going with the 25th pick from Jacksonville, Kadarius Toney. I'm going for the wide receiver from Florida. Now, let's be honest. There's been a lot of problems in Jacksonville. There's a reason why they only have one win. The defense is terrible, and the secondary obviously needs help. But there's a lot of good defensive players in this draft. They can even get the linebacker out of Notre Dame. But you want to give Lawrence weapons. You want to give him something. I don't know. I mean, Clark is a good wide receiver at Jacksonville, but you got to give him more than that. And this guy out of Florida, I mean, he's a speedster. I think he's really well for after the catch, which it's the hugest thing in the NFL. I mean, the 49ers took Jimmy G all the way to a Super Bowl because of yards after catch. So I believe, not saying that's going to be the same Kyle Shanahan type of offense in Jacksonville. God knows what the OC is going to do over there. But Jacksonville, to me, this wide receiver out of Florida, coming out of Gainesville with a great season, especially with Kyle Trask. And I'm not saying Kyle Trask is the same thing as Trevor Lawrence or whoever they have at a starter at that point, but it'll be great to see some good offensive weapons coming to Jacksonville. We haven't seen a lot of great offensive weapons, especially since the loss of Fournette, and then on defense they lost, of course, Calais Campbell to Baltimore. But that would be a hell of a pick to me, and I think that should be the right pick because you could say he's a wide receiver for the second round, but he's a first round wide receiver. I mean, he might be the underdog and the sleeper of this draft. A huge sleeper to me because people would probably forget his name. I mean, a lot of the University of Florida, I'm speaking of those picks and those players in this year's draft are really going to be dropping besides Pitts. Kyle Trask is obviously going to be like a third round, fourth round pick. He's a hell of a quarterback. I believe he's going to be a really good quarterback in the NFL, and I don't really see him as a backup. Maybe in the first couple of years. It depends on what situation he's in. But, I mean, I'm not going to talk about, any of the picks in round 2 or whatever. I'll definitely make another video next week talking about, the summary of the draft for all these Floridian teams. But I believe it's a really great pick for Jacksonville if they do get that Tony kid out of Florida. And then, of course, the last pick in the draft for any Floridian team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pick number 32. They don't need anybody. They can get rid of the entire pod in this draft if they have to get somebody extra. They re-sign everybody they wanted to re-sign. I mean, are you kidding me? They got every defensive player back, every offensive player back. Godwin came back. I mean, Brady's going to have a fun year. I'm going to put it at that. That's a 12-win season that they got. The only thing they probably could improve is the O-line. And that's where I'm going to go with this pick at number 32. I mean, you have Leatherwood, the guard out of Alabama, really well, especially for the pass. He's a really well-built O-lineman. But I'm going to go to Michigan. I'm going to go out there in the East, in the North. I'm going to go and get that kid Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan because I believe Tampa wants to build up a run. Mayfield, he's a hell of a blocker for the run. I can't imagine another guy in the first round coming out that's not Mayfield for this Tampa Bay team. You want to get Fournette out there. You want to get Jones out there. You want to have them 2 Pro Bowlers on the same team for the running game. And I know Brady's old, and I'm not going to go and say, oh, he can't make those long bomb throws. I'm not going to say any of that because I know when I say that, he proves it on the field. And everyone knows that. Everybody in Tampa knows that. So I'm expecting them to go based on fixing up a little bit of the offense, probably the run, to get those guys more yards. I know Jones had a terrific year. Fournette came in a little bit later, and he did really well as well for that team. But I expect Mayfield to be out there, really help on the rush. And that's going to be all the picks for this year's draft that I'm expecting for all the Floridian teams. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is going to be the first episode. I'm going to try to get an episode every single week if I can. And basically, to summarize it, I'm going on every single Floridian team out there, either university or in professional. And I'm hoping that this can build up something for, let's say, a resume for ESPN or sports analytics or anything like that, or even radio. Anything will be fine, but this is just a little project I'm having, and I'll be doing an episode every single week. I'm going to try to do it every single Thursday that if I can. When the NFL season starts, I'm going to probably do it on every Monday for I can just get you that information for those NFL games off of the weekend. But I just want to thank you all for joining in and tuning in, and I really do hope that I'll talk to you again next week. And thank you for joining in on the Floridian.